This episode of Your Morning Drive is brought to you by Fireworks Co-working. They are a creative co-working space located in Marietta, Georgia, focused on supporting the local community and uplifting creative entrepreneurs. If you want to try out this beautiful space, this podcast room is just one of the many available rooms and spaces available for you and your company to work at. If you want to try them, you can. Use code DRIVE at checkout and you'll get a free day pass. So, if you're working from home, if you're working at an office that you don't have to go to, if you're tired of working at your kitchen table where you have to listen to your kids or your spouse or the lawn people in the outside cutting the grass and it's too loud for your Zoom meetings. Well, you don't have to worry about that. You can try out Fireworks Co-working in Marietta, Georgia. It's right down the street from Kennestone Hospital. They are the presenting sponsor of Your Morning Drive. They offer me a beautiful space for me to be able to record my podcast with all of the creators, business owners, and other individuals that I get the pleasure of interviewing, and they can be your home too. So either go to the space, tour the place with the staff, tell them Logan Lewis from Your Morning Drive sent you, or if you're booking online, again, use code DRIVE, DRIVE, for a free day pass to try the space. Your Morning Drive is also present to us by Good Days Canned Cocktails. Good Days are a classic cocktail brand created in a convenient, ready-to-drink canned format for any occasion, whether it's a pool day, a boat day, a beach day, a graduation, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, anything in between. Good Days are there for you. Good Days are ahead when they are in your cooler, your fridge, your anything in between. Good Days has your back. If you want to be one of the first to try their drink, you can do so by visiting drinkgooddays.com/pages/find-us to find a store near you selling their drink. Of course, you must be 21 years of age to consume and purchase. How is it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Your Morning Drive. I am your host with the most, Logan. It is great to be back with everybody today. This podcast is proudly sponsored by partner and friend DKK Marketing and East Cobb City Lifestyle. Their mission is to create memorable moments, cultivate connections, build brand, and drive business development. The monthly East Cobb City Lifestyle print publication alone reaches nearly 63,000 readers. We're especially grateful to them for introducing today's guest, who we will get to in a minute. To learn more or connect with them, message me directly and I'll put you in touch with them, or email their owner, Kevin, at kevin.casada@eastcobbcitylifestyle.com. That's Kevin, KEVIN.KASETA at eastcobbcitylifestyle.com. If you enjoy our show, do me a favor and share it with one friend or family member that you think needs a new podcast to start their day. It could be the person in the cubicle next to you. It could be your therapist. It could be your personal trainer or your ex-girlfriend. Whoever you want to send the link to, we would love that. You can send them a link on either Spotify or Apple if they want to listen, or if they want to watch in full on YouTube, they can get that link sent to them as well. No matter what platform you send them, make sure that you yourself and them, now that they're hearing this, hit subscribe, follow, all of those things so that every time an episode comes out, you're first to know about it. You'll never miss one. If you would do so, please, if you enjoy what we're doing, featuring my stomach, leave a review, leave a rating, Spotify and Apple especially, YouTube as well, comment, share, hit the notification bell, do all of those things that every podcast and YouTuber and every person ever tells you to do. If you want to follow along on social, you can do that as well at Your Morning Drive on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. There you'll find show updates, episode announcements, and fun clips to keep you entertained Thank you again for being with us. My guest today, she moved to the United States in 1998 for university and eventually settled in East Cobb, Marietta, where she opened East Cobb Counseling in 2016. After years of working in diverse mental health settings, from community services to the criminal justice system and private practice, she found her passion in helping families in the local community. Her practice offers psychotherapeutic services for individuals, couples, families, children, teens, and the elderly, with a focus on holistic emotional health and personal development. At East Cobb Counseling, they prioritize a personalized, empathetic approach to therapy, meeting clients where they are and fostering growth through trust, cultural competence, and collaboration. Please welcome my new friend, Kimberly.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Actually, really impressed with that introduction. Wow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Man, hey, shout out to...
My heart's racing a little bit.
Is
I'm like,
it?
woo!
Is
Yeah,
it like
that's good.
it's like the movie trailer music is building up in your head? And you're like,
building up,
you're
almost
like,
getting a little teary. Yeah, that was
really?
cool. Look
Oh,
at
heck yeah.
you.
We love that. Let's go.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
It's amazing to have you. And we have an audience as well, which is very nerve-wracking for me. I feel like all of a sudden, I feel like God is watching me right now. Like, I just feel like, oh my God, she's over there in the corner.
Let's just leave her there.
Yeah, you're right. That's fine.
Her.
Not even acknowledge her, even though I'll probably look at her every once in a while.
That's okay. Yeah, check her out.
Make sure she's doing all right. Yeah. We love that.
Good deal.
But either way, tell me, who is Kimberly?
Wow, that's a interesting question.
It's a mouthful.
Right? Yeah,
of a
like
question.
who am I?
Who are you?
Isn't that what we're always exploring? Isn't that the journey? This thing called life? Who are we? I guess I'm simply a human being trying to be human and give back.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to before the U.S. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Trinidad and Tobago. So that's how you pronounce it.
I'm going to be extremely American and ask you, where the hell is that?
Right. So it's off the coast of Venezuela.
Okay.
In the Caribbean.
Okay.
So it's the furthest and largest island in the Caribbean.
Okay.
I know Jamaicans will get a little upset with that, but it's a pretty cool place. So I was born there, raised there, and left at 1798 to come across to university.
So you left, sorry to cut you off. So you left by yourself, or did your family come as well?
No, just me.
Just you.
I mean, it's pretty typical of kids in Trinidad for parents to send you abroad for education. So it wasn't uncommon. Both my parents were educated in London. Okay. My dad actually went to the London School of Fashion. And my mom...
Really?
Yeah. So pretty cool, right?
Very.
Yeah. And I have two younger sisters. I'm the oldest of three. And my two sisters, one went to Canada, which is where my father's family migrated to. And but yeah, my father's family migrated to Canada. He's the eldest of 11 kids.
11 children?
Dude, exactly. Catholic.
Hey, I get that.
Right? Yeah. So my sister went to Canada for education. My youngest sister went to England for education. So we all kind of left the nest, and my parents very much supported and embraced that. You know, we traveled a lot as kids. I mean, you have to. You're on an island, right, with 1-point-something million people. It's small. So a lot of us leave and travel and explore to learn the world and kind of learn ourselves, right?
Wow. What made, so your sisters, one of them went to England, you said, right? One of them went to Canada.
Yep.
What made you choose the United States?
So I think I really wanted to go to the University of Miami because that's where all my friends were going. Obviously, we all wanted to party down there.
Yeah, of course.
And my mom was like, you know what? You probably need something a little bit smaller, a little bit more refined, a little bit more controlled. So I ended up in a small Baptist institution, Bruton Parker College.
Where at?
In Southeast Georgia.
Southeast Georgia.
Let's not talk too much shit about it, because at the end of the day, it really helped mold me. Honestly.
You think?
It was a complete culture shock. Freaked me out. Really. It was like nothing. There was nothing there.
Really?
When you think of America, you think of big. You think of New York City. You think of Miami. You think of Chicago, right? You don't think of like a put-out town in Southeast Georgia.
Wow.
But you know what? I made some really good friends. And it was a great experience. And I got a an education and got an undergraduate in psychology and a minor in sociology. And that's where it kind of all began, right? So,
Wow. So your father is obviously into fashion.
right.
And what did your mom do?
Oh, so she went to school for business, but specifically for hotel management.
Okay.
And they actually owned an import-export company in Trinidad, which they grew while we were pretty young, while they were raising us. It was called West Indian Traders, which they recently sold, 2 years ago?
Okay.
So they're retired. So guess what they get to do now?
Come see you.
Come visit us, right?
Heck
so
yeah.
my sister still lives in England with her husband and their kids, and I live in the States, East Cobb, and they come visit, and we all go explore the world together.
That stuff sounds like so much fun.
It's so much fun. They were actually here with us for Thanksgiving, so it was super
Amazing.
cool. They were here for 10 days, yeah.
10 days.
Yeah.
Love that.
So we partied for 10 days.
Of course, of course, of
Absolutely.
course.
Good times.
Yeah, I love that. So when you get here, I mean, before you moved here for university, did you guys ever travel to the United States, or was that your first coming in?
That was like my first time in the States.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Talk about the culture shock.
Talk about a culture shock. We frequent Canada. Obviously, my grandparents live there. My grandmother still lives out there, and a lot of my father's siblings live in Canada. One lives in Germany, and then my sister, she's in London. So no, not to the States. So coming to Georgia it's so interesting. So you're taking me back many years, but I'll give you the story. So we fly into Miami and decide that we're going to drive to Georgia. Why not take a road trip? So it's my parents and I, right? And we're driving, and you're leaving Florida, which is an interesting state on its own, right? And it's beautiful. It's great. I have a lot of friends that live in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. And we drive to Georgia, and I was under the impression that the school was much closer to Atlanta.
Okay.
Again, you have to think relative distance, right? And then you leave Atlanta, and you keep going south, and things just get more and more forestry.
Less and less buildings as you keep going.
Buildings as you keep going. And you keep waiting for this city to pop up, right?
Yes.
You see the signs for where was it first? It was going south. What did we hit before? Dublin.
Yeah.
Right? Dublin. And then right after Dublin is Soperton. And then Soperton you have to get off that exit to get to Vidalia. And It was just surreal. It was like, what? This is interesting. It was very different from Canada.
Yeah, I'd say. What's Canada like? I've never been there.
Canada. Canada smells great. It's a great place. I mean, it's cool.
Did you say it smells good?
Yeah, I like how
Really?
it smells. Yeah, that's what I remember as a kid. Smell is the one thing that we'll remember, right? Our olfactory actually goes directly to the mid-center of the brain. So that's something that you associate a lot of things with. Even as a kid, you would associate smell with your mom and safety and that. When you think of home, what's the smell that comes up?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I remember how my grandma's house smells.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you think of your grandma's house and what it smells like, what time of year does that really associate with, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, I just remember the smell of Canada as a young kid, particularly in the winter time, that pine type smell, just really crispy and nice. My grandparents lived on a lake, Muskoka. So it's north of Toronto.
Okay.
And it was just so beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, especially in the fall, early winter. It's gorgeous. We were actually back there, 2 years ago for my grandmother's 90th birthday.
90th birthday. Wow.
Yeah.
And how's she doing?
She's great.
That's amazing.
I know.
My wife's grandma is 98. 98? Either way, late 90s. And every time, I'll get a text every once in a while that said, hey, grandma fell or grandma tripped or something. And every single time I'm like, that's it. But every single time she's sharp as can be. And I'm like, golly, I mean, I'd be lucky if I got here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very good.
Just Southern as hell.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
I mean, I don't know how she does it. She's awesome. Incredible.
Do you guys visit her often?
Probably not as often as we should. She lives in Ackworth.
Okay.
So, I mean, she's not far.
No.
She's in a assisted living facility.
Okay.
But I mean, we see her at all the major grandkid and great grandkid birthday parties and holiday events and all those things. But I mean, she's great. She's really funny.
Yeah.
And just super sharp. I mean, she says things sometimes that even I have to think about for a second. I'm like, Wow,
Look
that
at
was
you,
good,
Grandma.
Grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome, though. I think the elderly are so overlooked in our culture, right? We tend to put them in old people's homes and get rid of
mhm.
them. But, in our culture in Trinidad, we actually kept family pretty close. So my mom's mom, my grandmother, she lived with us until she died how many years ago? Not a year, maybe 2 or 3
Couple
years.
years.
Yeah, and she was 101.
Wow.
Yeah, but keep them close to the family. They feel like they have a sense of belonging, right?
Sure.
And look, they are smart and they have so much wisdom
Right.
to provide for us, and we just tend to ignore them.
You know what's funny? I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually looking into something a while ago that, America is one of the only countries that I don't want to say demonizes because that's a strong word, but really looks down upon you if you live with family. As an adult, if you move,
Sure.
other cultures, you like you said, a lot of the times your family will move in with you. I know a lot of Asian cultures, their families live together forever.
Mhm.
Hispanic cultures, they do that.
Mhm.
But America, if you live in your parents' house after you're 18, you're considered a loser.
Sure.
And it's one of those things that stinks because, if you can't afford to live on your own, of course I'm going to stay with my parents.
Right.
My parents live locally. They live in Kennesaw.
Yeah.
So, I lived lived with them throughout college.
Okay.
But even then, like, I would get these, like, those off comments from people that be like, oh, you live with your parents?
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I'm saving money. What
Sure.
about you?
Sure.
And it's just unfortunate, but somebody would point it out to me. They're like, America is one of the only countries in the world that think that way.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, because America like has this whole like societal culture thing, like, oh, if you're a loser if you're living with your parents,
Yeah.
and it's like it doesn't have to be that way.
You're supposed to fly the nest at 18, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
regardless of your situation,
Right.
And most people are expected to go off to college or university
Sure.
or do something with their life outside of their parents' home. I think that's true, though. That's a great observation, and that is quite sad, isn't it?
It
Because
is.
family is just at the heart of it. We need our families to really thrive.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when you get to the point where I got a few years ago where I stopped looking at my parents as my parents and
Right.
more so as friends.
Friends. Yeah.
And like even my friends, they're like, yo, your parents coming to your Christmas party? Or they enjoy being around my parents.
Yeah.
And my parents look at them as friends too.
Sure.
So it's like I love when I got to crossed that threshold
Mhm.
of like, oh, my parents are cool.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my parents can
Absolutely.
hang out with my dad, can be with the boys. We can go golf together. We can have a party and my parents can come and it's not weird. Like, oh, the parents are coming.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place to be.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
agree with you. I really enjoy my parents as friends and as part of our family and my friends, right? Like you're saying, even for Thanksgiving, we had some of our really good friends come over and hang out with my parents throughout the entire 10 days, so they have really integrated into our life here, just as we kind of integrated into their life in Trinidad. Because when we go to Trinidad to visit, who are we hanging out with? Their friends, right?
Right.
And it's pretty cool.
So I wanted to ask too, so we mentioned the family differences in terms of like the cultural differences between America and Trinidad.
Sure.
What are when you got here, you're like, oh, that's different. Like culture shocks almost that you thought like, oh man, the US is different.
Well, you have to remember, I went to the southern part of the U.S.
Yeah.
is very different.
You
'Cause
saw
now
a
that I've
very different part of the
Right.
US for your
'Cause
first
now-
exposure.
Yeah. And now that I've traveled a little bit, you recognize that the north and south are different. And then the middle of the country is different as well, right?
Mhm.
But even Atlanta is different from South Georgia.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's so odd.
It's so odd. Atlanta is such a cosmopolitan place. It's metro, right? It just houses everyone. It's beautiful. I really love Atlanta. I actually drove with some friends of mine from when we were at Burton Parker, drove up to Atlanta to just hang out with them at their parents' house. Because that's
Sure.
what you do, right? You leave the country on the weekends and come to the city to party. Even though it was 3 hours away, we were still doing it. You're young enough to do it.
Of course.
And I remember driving through Atlanta and saying, this is where I want to be. I just love Atlanta. I do.
Yeah. It's a great spot.
It is a cool spot, but Trinidad, it's an island. It's very tropical. The seasons don't change, so that was huge. Also, like again, we talked a little bit when we first met about the crazy weather that we're having right now. You didn't know until you knew what type of clothes you needed, and nobody else can really describe that to you because you know how to dress for like winter,
Sure.
snow on the ground. Everybody knows that,
Right.
right? But those in betweens, you're like, what?
Right.
So like flannel. I never thought that I was going to wear flannel a day in my life. Guess what? There's a use for flannel in Georgia.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
there
you
is.
embrace all of those cultural things, right? South Georgia is so interesting. You have, I hate to say this word, but rednecks, they're so interesting to me. They're fascinating people and they have different traditions. Like they love their big trucks. I respect that now. Somebody took me mud bogging 3 days in. They're like, you've never been mud bogging? I'm like, what? No, I went mud bogging. It was such an awesome experience. This was back in 97. So this wasn't the time for like cell phones as we know them now. There was no iPhone. So you just had to immerse yourself in those experiences. And I mean, you can see my face, right? Talking about it.
Yeah, you're excited about it. Yeah.
I can feel it because I have that memory. And I don't know where that guy is now, right?
Right.
But we were friends back then. He took me for this great adventure. And it was something that I can tell my friends from back home about, or my parents, like, you wouldn't believe what I did today.
Yeah.
That's not something I'm going to do in Trinidad, right?
No,
So it was super cool.
And what's great about that interaction is I guarantee that if you cross paths with that guy, you'd be like, oh my God, remember we went?
Yeah,
and then he would get just as passionate and excited about it as you. So
it was super cool. I mean, I still have really, really good friends from Vidalia. Actually, some of my best friends. And that was the other thing. It wasn't just that you were part of this school, right? That, by the way, was a Baptist school. So it was very different. I was raised Catholic. So again, all of these interesting differences, right? But the interesting part is how many people that went to school there also kind of integrated into the city, which was Vidalia, which was just a really small little town, but it was kind of a spot that you went to for either going to a restaurant, eating out, that type of thing. And you met people in that town because we were odd to them just as they were odd to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of us are still really good friends. So
That's
it was
awesome.
a really great experience. And then that was when I had my first job. I actually worked for Pineland Mental Health in a day facility. So the clients would be delivered, like they were picked up because most of them had disabilities that didn't allow them to work and that type of thing. They also had mental health disabilities. So they would be dropped off. And that was where I did my internship. And the person who ran the program, David Standard at the time, he offered me a job. And it was super cool. So the first year, right after college, because remember, I'm also an international, so I had to stay within appropriate documentation. So first I was a student, and then I was able to get a work visa for a year to work there. And then after that, I decided to continue further my career because I wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
And I went over to Georgia Southern.
Okay.
And did my master's over there.
Heck yeah. Hail Southern, or whatever they say over there.
I'm not sure. I was a master's student at that time, so I think I don't know. I can't remember.
Oh man,
that was back in 2002.
Wow.
It was a great school, though. The program was amazing. Yeah. I loved it. It was a really good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Statesboro is a fun time, too.
It's a fun time.
There's some good spots at Statesboro.
Yeah. And plus, when you don't have things accessible to you, you want to explore. So a lot of the times, you and a bunch of friends would go to Savannah. A bunch of friends would go to Atlanta. I mean, we even did a cross country to Canada. And 5 of us drove up, and 3 of us stayed with one of my uncles in Toronto and partied in Toronto for a weekend. So you just figure it out, you know what I'm saying? But to be youthful again.
Yeah.
It was a great time. I really, at first when I was living it, I was like, oh my God, what is this? But now I have a real appreciation for it because it really allowed me to become who I am and to experience different people that I probably would never have experienced before. Right. So that veil of judgment is kind of lifted. You never know. Right? You never know who you're going to meet and who you're going to enjoy, and finding similarities with people that are completely different from you. It's such a wonderful opportunity.
I love that. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's so when your parents own this company.
Okay. Yeah.
So you kind of grew up in the household of like entrepreneurs. They
Yeah.
worked for themselves. They
Yeah.
ran their own business.
Yeah.
Do you think that that bug carried over to you? Or do you think that this, like opening your own practice, do you think that just kind of was the transpiring events just led to that? Or do you think you've always had that entrepreneurial kind of spirit within you?
I think that, we, I think that what was modeled for me, yes, was part of who I was then becoming, right? So, yes, to see my parents build their own business was a huge part of it, I'm sure. Honestly, all three of us pretty much run our own businesses. So my sister's a cosmetologist in Trinidad, and my youngest sister, she does sports therapy in London.
Very cool.
And so everybody has kind of running their own thing. And I think my dad's biggest thing for us was never to rely or depend on someone else. Build it on your own, because you can do it, right? I mean, and anybody that I've worked for, I don't know who you work for, but most of us, when we work for someone, we're like, ugh. It's much better when you work for yourself. And then you get to make your own hours and you make some of your own decisions and that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, even if you have the greatest job in the world, you're still doing it for someone else.
Yeah.
There's an expression out there that says something like, quit paying for someone else's dream.
Sure.
And pay for your own, or something like that.
Yeah.
I might be messing it up, but either way, it's like, dang. I mean, and all of us have the capability of doing
Absolutely.
it. It's just whether you have the drive to get up and get after it.
And I think that's one of the biggest things about the US, America. It's a beautiful place to have whatever dream, whatever goal, and go after it. It's truly an amazing place to do that, right? I mean, the American dream is to come to the States and build your own empire. And anyone can. That's why I get so upset with our kids when they're like, I just can't do it. Yeah, fuck, you can.
Yeah.
You can. You can do it. You can do anything you put your mind to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of work, right?
Sure.
It takes diligence. It takes grit. It takes discipline.
Consistency.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
And it takes a form of self-love. Like, you got to love yourself enough to do the work each day to get the result that you want. It's just like going to the gym. You're not going to go to the gym one day and see results. But in 6 months to a year, you see change, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with anything else that you put your mind to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's funny when people say that they just can't do something. Or, I mean, we live in a time where you can do anything you want. You could start a business laying in bed on your computer, online.
Right. Look at some of these people who are making crazy money on YouTube.
It's insane.
Insane.
I was just listening to a podcast interview with the YouTuber Mr. Beast. Have you heard of this guy? He's the biggest YouTuber on the planet right now. He has the most subscribers out of everybody. And he makes these videos that are just extreme. Like, he's got this one where he makes the largest pizza known to man, and it's the size of like a 8-mile wide warehouse.
What?
And they just bake these, and then he gives away, he's crazy charitable and, other words that describe philanthropic. That's what I was looking for. And I mean, he just makes these huge videos, and he tells this story of, he was like, yeah, I was just making YouTube videos in college for fun. And he's like, one day I woke up and decided I want to do YouTube for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And his parents were like, no, you're not going to be able to do that. Like, this is when YouTube is like first starting to come up. And he was like, well, watch me.
Sure.
And
Look
he did it, and he made these videos, and now he's one of the most wealthy 20-year-olds on the planet because he makes the craziest YouTube videos ever. You got to look him up later. Mr. Beast is his name. His videos are just crazy, out of this world stuff. Things that you and I would never think of.
Sure.
But I mean, he had people in his life that were saying like, you'll never do this. And he said, okay, sounds good. Watch me.
Exactly.
And I feel like if you have that drive and that passion behind what you're doing, you can get there.
Yep.
I mean, I was telling her before we were recording, I've done this podcast for 7 years.
Wow.
Almost 7 years.
Okay.
In May, it'll be 7 years.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Do you love it?
Yeah.
We're here on
I'll do it to the day. Right.
Exactly.
I'll do it to the day I die.
Exactly.
Whether 10 people listen or 63,000, I'll do it till the day I die.
That's awesome.
I don't think
when you
I'd
find
stop.
something that you love and you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work.
No.
No.
I could do 8 of these recordings back to back to back. And every time I finish, I call my wife afterwards. I'm like, that was the best one I've ever did. And she'll say, you just said that about the one that you did last week. And I was like, I know, but this one's the best one I've ever done. And she's like, as long as you keep having that feeling, it's not work.
Right.
It never is. And, it's a lot of work. It's more than just showing up and recording and us talking back and forth. There's, everything on the back end. And it doesn't feel like work. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's like.
That's how I feel about therapy.
I love therapy.
Isn't it amazing?
I just started going to therapy in 2024.
Good for you. I think everyone should do therapy.
I love it.
Good.
So much.
Good.
Because I won't lie to you. I used to be the guy who was like, I ain't no bitch. I don't need to go to therapy.
Right. Who needs that?
Who needs therapy? I'm not mentally weak.
Right. That's what a lot of people think, that you're mentally weak. Something's wrong with you. You
have
to have
you have a problem.
Diagnosis. Yes, you have a problem. There's a limitation. And when we start thinking about, I have a limitation, something's wrong with me, that gets a little scary, right?
It's like people need to realize that at the end of the day, therapy, if you take out everything that it is and just look at it on paper, talking about your life and your struggles and your issues or your joys and your passions with someone who has no bias towards your life is the most incredible thing ever. I mean, and somebody's saying, well, why don't you look at it from this perspective?
Sure.
And you're thinking, holy shit, I've never thought about it like that. And you walk away, and I when I walk out of my therapy appointments, which is how I hope to always be walking away from them, is I almost feel like it after you finish a workout. You've got all these endorphins that you've released. You kind of feel like loosey-goosey.
Sure.
You're like, man, I'm ready to tackle the day now. Like
you feel empowered.
Absolutely. It's amazing. And I wish more people looked at it like that, because I know when I don't know where, I don't know. I mean, you said you went to college in the 90s. I mean, I was born in the 90s. So
Late
when my
90s.
Parents were growing up, I know that therapy was looked at very differently. It was looked at in that respect of like, oh, if you're going to therapy, you've got problems or you're battling something. And it's like, nah, dude, I'd like to talk to my therapist about everyday life. And she gives me tips and tidbits that have made 2024 such a good year.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I don't know if I would have had it if I didn't go to therapy.
Yeah.
And even me and my wife go to therapy. We don't hide that.
Well, good.
I mean, we're very outspoken about like, we don't go all the time.
Sure.
We both go and see our own respective people alone. But every once in a while, maybe every 2-3 months, we go together just to circle up and
doing it. Yeah.
It's amazing. I love it. We both love it so much.
Well, it really allows you to create a space for your own self-growth, right? And it's very reflective. You get an opportunity for an hour to really take a deep dive into you. Just like you started this whole process with, who are you, right? Isn't that wonderful that you take an hour each week or every other week or once a month to just do that reflective work, that introspection, to say, hey, am I really truly satisfied with who I am and how I'm showing up each day? And if I do have these parts of me that are no longer serving me, they're no longer working for me, can I take an opportunity to learn from them, grow from them, but also let them go so that I can continue to be my best self?
Sure.
It's great.
So I'm curious. So again, like, I think this is where I was going with the question earlier. Your dad was in fashion. I mean, went to fashion school.
Yeah.
Your mom did what she did. Your sisters, you said one of them was a cosmetologist,
So
and then one of them, everybody's in their own
little thing. Yeah. But
why did you?
In some sort of care for someone else.
True.
Right? So it's interesting.
So what made you hone in on therapy? Were you always a mental health advocate? I mean, in mental health, even, back in the 90s wasn't talked about like it is today.
Sure.
But like, what I'm getting at is like, why this field?
I think if I had to be completely honest, it's because I had to do my own work. So we have to heal. So I took a deep dive into healing myself first, and then realized what an amazing journey that was and what a great opportunity it would be to create that space for others.
That's amazing.
It was intense.
It's powerful.
But it's still happening. It's ongoing. Like I'm learning about me all the time, right? I screw up. I make mistakes. I fall back into old behavioral patterns that don't serve me, but they're familiar and they're fun and they're
it's
comfortable.
It's easy to settle in those because
Right.
you know it, and it's
But
absolutely.
but every day, part of that discipline is to make a decision of who you want to be, right? So then you can say, okay, yeah, I kind of fell off the horse, right? I recognize that I'm doing something that's not serving me, and then decide, because it is a decision, to do something different. And the more you do that, the more you choose you, the you truly want to become, the easier it becomes. It's like the butterfly already exists in the caterpillar. You didn't have to work to get there, right?
Ooh,
So
I like that.
beauty exists in all of us. We just have to create a space that allows it to transform. And that's what therapy does. It's cool. It's a process. It's a journey. And it's hard. It's really hard. Sometimes there are days that I'm like, oh God, this sucks. Or a client, they're so stuck. And what you want to do is you want to rescue them. You're like, let me tell you what to do.
You just want to like go up to them and grab them and just be like, "Grr!" Like,
or you want to say, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You got this. And you do all of those things, but you're like, I'm just going to sit in this shit with you and we're going to figure it out. Because this is where you need to be.
Have you ever been in the position of somebody talking to you about, X, Y, or Z, and you have thought to yourself, I don't know what to tell this person?
Absolutely. And I say that sometimes. I'm like, you know what? I don't know either.
Wow.
But we can figure it out together.
I think
let's break it down. Like, let's really, because again, it really comes back to you as the individual, right? And it comes back to all of these systems. Like, you keep going back to my systems. You keep going back to my mom and dad, my sisters, my culture, my religion, all of these things that have really imprinted on me. So I have to go back to those that belong to them as well and say, okay, where did we learn this? Where did this belief come from? Is it a core belief that is keeping me stuck? Is it a core belief system that's keeping me locked into patterns, relationships, dysfunction, jobs that are just not serving me? Addictions, because we're all little addicts.
that's
We just
something.
want to feel good. Yeah, absolutely. And at the core of it is we just want to feel good. We just want to numb out. We just want to experience something a little bit different, right? But is it working for you? Do you feel good about it? Do you wake up the next day and go, yeah, that was the best me? If not, what are we going to change? And it starts by just small, specific steps. I mean, even drinking water. Just start by drinking water and you'll see change. But you also have to create a space, an environment that nurtures that, right? So like for me, I walk around with my water cup all the time, right? But for my spouse, it's really hard for them to drink water. So what they do instead is they leave a glass in every room. Drives me nuts. But it's their process.
It drives me nuts too.
Drives me nuts. There's one in the bathroom. There's one in the bedroom. There's one in the kitchen. There's one.
There's 4 on her nightstand. I'm like, Jesus, which one is which?
Right? And how long have they been there?
Yeah.
But you're drinking water.
Yes.
And that's great.
Yes.
Right? So again, you have to figure out what
Right.
works for you. And what works for you is not going to look like what works for everyone else.
Sure.
And that's the other thing. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Ugh.
So
Isn't it?
drop that, right? Because it
It's
doesn't
so
work.
hard.
It's so hard. And with Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all these platforms, it just encourages that, right? So really look at what you're taking in each day that's nurturing you and nurturing your beliefs. Because if you're looking at other people constantly, then that's what you're going to inevitably do, right? Is look at what everybody else is doing and then judge you based on what you perceive they're doing. And sometimes that's not real.
Because, too often enough, I feel like we only also share the wins.
Absolutely.
We don't share the struggles.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should try to normalize that. I mean, sure, you might share the passing of a family member, but you don't, if you and your spouse hit a bump in the road, you're not going to blast it on the internet.
Sure.
And because some would argue that's too personal.
Yeah.
But if we're truly taking social media into what it is, we should share that stuff to an extent, of course.
Sure.
But sometimes it just feels so fake,
Yeah. I hate Facebook.
I would say the most real social platform might be LinkedIn, only because people will get on there and they'll say, hey, I got let go.
Right.
I'm struggling.
Yeah.
I need to find a job.
Yeah.
And people are really vulnerable on that platform, which is really cool. Because I used to look at LinkedIn and think, oh, it's just Facebook for business nerds,
right?
Or professionals.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I love LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. I'm obsessed with LinkedIn.
Really?
Oh God, I love it. Because first of all, it's also put me in touch with really cool people to do this show with. But it's just fascinating to learn about how people are so obsessed with their crafts.
Sure.
Just so obsessed.
Yeah, there's some deep love there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Yeah.
I mean, are you obsessed with therapy?
Yeah. That's basically...
This might be personal, but do you go to your own therapist?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to.
Absolutely.
Therapy is probably the best line of work to get into because even therapists need therapists.
Absolutely. We need each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we lean into each other. And I really, truly believe in continuing education and collaboration. And when you don't know something, leaning into the people around you that do know, right? Like I'm a psychotherapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. So when it comes to medication and medication management, I'm going to look for the people in my community that know about those things to help guide the process for the client. Because at the end of the day, the client is the most important person. So you have to also stay within your lane and know your role, right? And this is one of the things that I do with my clients. I really want to educate them about what they can honestly get from me. And if I'm not the best fit for them, I have 8 other therapists in my practice, and there is a therapist on every street corner in East Cobb. So there's choice also. And I want them to know that they have choice. They don't have to stay with one person forever. Just like in relationships, we outgrow people. In therapy, you can outgrow your therapist. And that's okay.
It's very okay.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's very... When we first were getting into therapy, I saw somebody and I wasn't a fan. And they were like, ultimately, when I told them, hey, I'm going to like go and look around. And they said, listen, I don't care if you don't see me. I just care that you see somebody.
There you go.
And that's what I really like about the therapy community is that people, instead of judging you for going to the practice down the street, it's like, listen, I'm just glad you're going to see somebody.
Absolutely.
Because I do think everybody should go.
Yeah.
And I've been very vocal in my family about like, hey, you should go to therapy. And I think it strikes some people because again, a lot of my parents and their friends and their siblings, the word therapy, it brings back that connotation of something's wrong.
Yep.
And it makes people uncomfortable when I'm like, you should go to therapy. Sure. You and my uncle, you and my aunt, you and your brother, you should all go to therapy.
Yeah.
But people are always like, oh, what's wrong with Logan? He's going to therapy. Nothing's wrong. I just like going.
Yeah.
I clearly like talking to people.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, what better place to then reflect on you? I just think it's great for anyone to go to therapy. And not everyone who comes to therapy has to have some like deep trauma or some deep wound, right? Some people are just coming because they're stressed out, they're overwhelmed, they're overworked, they feel like, life is difficult. They're in an interesting stage of life. Like some of us have never been 35 with 2 kids, right? Like
there's not a rule book.
There's not exactly. And you're just trying to figure it out. So go get support. And sometimes you don't want to talk to your friends or your neighbors or, people on Facebook or your family who's going to judge you or you believe that you will be judged, but you just want a place where you can just come in and do the exploration on your own. And you feel so empowered and you feel so free.
I agree. I love it. I will probably continue screaming from the rooftops that I love it. And I think I scream from the rooftops so much about it is because I was wrong about it.
Ooh.
I hate to admit when I'm wrong. I think most people do.
Okay.
But I was so wrong about therapy. And now I feel like this is almost some therapy right now, but I feel like it's just I'm overcompensating for the fact, like I was so dead wrong about therapy and that like, you have to, therapy's for people that are weak or that have problems. I love going to therapy.
Yeah.
Maybe because I was so wrong about it. And I feel like I'm just trying to convince other people that they're wrong about it too.
Sure.
And
I think you've also had a really beautiful experience with it. And that's why I say to people, you don't have to stick with just one person. And I do like to offer like an initial consultation that just gives me and the client an opportunity to meet and just sit with each other, right? Yes, it's going to be about them. We're not going to share a ton of information about me, right? But it is a great opportunity for us to sit together. And when you're in someone's space, Like even when I was coming in here today, we were early and you and I got to sit together, right? And we just chatted about nothing in particular. But what happened is my stress level dropped considerably, right? And I can be a little bit more vulnerable with you. I can share information with you because I'm now comfortable in your space, and I can breathe a little bit differently. So the more time that you spend with someone, you build that relationship. That's why we call that rapport, right? It's just that space that we're sharing together. And the more comfortable I am in it, the more I'm able to show up in all of my parts, right?
Sure.
All of the parts of who I am, who make Logan him, who make Kimberly me, right? And many people on that first couple visits, they leave a lot of their parts in the parking lot, in the lobby, back at home, because they want to come in with a presentation of who they want me to see them as. And that's okay, because all of those parts are just simply trying to protect them. So there's no judgment. There's just absolute love and acceptance.
Do you ever find it difficult, because you mentioned there, it's not a back and forth when you're doing those consultations, You're learning mostly about them. Do you ever find it difficult not to tell them about yourself?
So I know I come from a school of say nothing. You are basically, the therapist is a blank canvas.
You're a wall.
You're a wall, right? All you're coming in with what you have learned and what your therapeutic experiences are. I tend to find as I grow in this field, and probably as I get older, that I do share. Because similarity, familiarity, letting someone know that just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean that I don't have some of those same experiences, help in the process, right? And help people work through some of their stuckness or feeling like somehow they are more burdened, right? So it does have an opportunity. And that's what I think I want us to focus on is my sharing, is it an opportunity for their growth? Because if it's selfish sharing, I'm not in the business for that. But if it's to help, to support what we're doing, absolutely.
And I think people also get more comfortable with you or their therapist when they find that, like you said, they're relatable, that they're not just this. Because, when you're in school and you're looking at your teachers, you look at your teachers as this person that is this almighty person that is teaching you the thing. Or your doctor is this person that is giving you information or helping you heal. But they're all people too that have the same we all pay for gas. We all go get groceries. We all go to the movies. We all we all drink. We all have
interesting relationships. We all have, some maternal or paternal wound that we're working through. Yeah, absolutely. And when we can just sit in that together, it's really nice. It's a comfort.
Yes, it's comfortable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it allows the client to also know that they're not alone. And remember, at the end of the day, we don't want to feel like we're alone. We are packed animals, right? We are relational. So when we feel connected, that really helps.
There's nothing better.
Exactly. That's why we talk about it even today, right? Family, community, a sense of belonging, feeling connected. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to work in East Cobb, is because I've lived there for 15 years, right? We have a family there. Our kids went to school there. So why not want to give back to that community? And then the people that I have working at my private practice, they all live there, have kids there, have family there. So again, it's that sense of community. You're at the pulse of what's going on around you. You know the trends. You know what the year looks like, even like for the school year, right? You know when there's going to be ups and downs, what can be very overwhelming for some of the clients that are coming in, right? Because you've experienced it. Isn't that cool? So there's that relatability again, right? And we don't have to talk about it. We just kind of know. They go, oh my God, it's the end of the year. So they have all these Christmas things at school. It's so overwhelming. And you're like, oh gosh, yeah, I know. That's a lot. And you can feel that, right? We don't have to talk about what's right. So it's very interesting that you can have that relatability and you don't have to talk that much about it. You just know that you're in the same community.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your practice. I mean, so at what point when you get out of school, you graduate, you're done with all your schooling?
Well, we skipped a whole piece, right? So after my master's, I worked I got a job at Hayes State Prison out in Rome, Georgia. Well, it's outside of Rome. It's in Somerville, Georgia. And that was an interesting year of my life.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Tell me all about that.
It was wild. I was 25 years old. I didn't know shit from Sharnola. It was wild. And it's only when I left that I was like, what? Did I just do that? But it was super. I mean, look, it really helped me understand where I wanted to go at that time in my career. And I really wanted to work then with kids because I was like, oh, I got to help these kids out. Because if you look at most people who are in prison, when you look at what their lives have been like, most of them come from situations of single parent home, socioeconomically disadvantaged, drug or alcohol addicted parents, abuse, neglect, defects involvement. So, of course, being a kid at 25 years old, I'm like, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to work with kids. So I also went on to become a registered play therapist. And I did that for 9 years. After I left the prison, I did that for 9 years while doing my doctorate. And we worked with children and adolescents in the community and obviously their families, because that's a huge part of it. But most of them were, well, all of them were in disadvantaged situations. And Logan, that changes you. It's hard to go into the community, into someone's home, into where they go to school, into their worlds, and sit in that. It's rough.
Really?
Yeah, because we were working with kids as young as 5 who were neglected and abused and hurt by people who were supposed to protect them. Shitty.
Really?
Yeah.
Hard time?
I don't work with kids anymore. I prefer to work with older kids now, adolescents. I have other people on my team that will work with younger kids, but I just got really burnt out. 9 years was a long time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then you realize that you can't save everyone.
Yeah.
And we had a team. So it wasn't just me, sometimes, yes, alone, but I had a team of clinicians who went with me. So it usually was like 3 or 4 people on a team. And we had, specific number of clients that we had for 3-month, 6-month, 9-month period. So we had to do reauthorizations and stuff for the client to justify the services that were being given to them, afforded to them, because this was a federal money that was paying for these services. So it was just tough. And it was just really, really overwhelming and exhausting. Like most nights you get home at 9 o'clock because most of the places we were going to were pretty far outside of East Cobb. And you get home and you go, oh, thank God for what I have. So that's when I really learned gratitude.
I like that a lot.
And I practice that daily.
Really? How?
Just in the morning. Thank you. Thank you for this life. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for my business. Thank you for today. Thank you for all of my blessings, because I'm blessed. And I get to give back.
How do you like to give back? Besides doing your work every day.
Right. I mean, I really like being a member of our community and giving back in those regards. And any way that we can, whether it's financial or otherwise, whether it's time, whether it's a space for someone, I really enjoy building out my private practice. So like I said, I have other clinicians and each of them have a story. Each of them have a reason for why they do the things that they do, right? And I really love creating a space for them to come and do the work that they do. And everyone, yes, we're all therapists, but we all have specialties. Right. So like I said, I actually have this wonderful, fascinating individual who works with neurodivergent kids. Holy moly.
What does that even mean?
Basically, kids who are on the spectrum.
Okay.
Right. But they have severe
complications.
Okay. Yes. And limitations. Okay. Like they would not be in like a traditional school environment. Their parents really need support that they wouldn't get from like a traditional setting.
Okay.
And her stories absolutely blow mine amazing. And to meet her and then create a space for her to do her work. God.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
What an honor.
I know, right? I get to honor her by just creating a space for her. That's it.
I love that.
It's so beautiful. And she is an amazing human being. And like, it was overwhelming. At first, you're like, oh God, how is this going to work, right? Because she's still in school. She's still doing her thing. But look, it's working and it's amazing. And she really gives the kids that she sees, the families that she sees, she really gives them 100%. And that's beautiful. And each one of my clinicians have that type of story. So that's super cool. And I'm sure you've seen this show Shrinking, right?
Of course.
Right.
I love Shrinking.
Okay. So you get this backdrop of therapists have their own lives, right?
Yeah.
And you also take that into consideration, that all of these people, regardless of how they're showing up, Monday through Friday for work, they also have all their stuff that they're dealing with also.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to put that aside, right? And make you the most important person for that hour or longer, because most of us take our clients home with us in some regard, right? Whether it's that I think about you during the week and I just send you positivity, right? Because I know that you're going through a hard time. And although I don't see you as frequently, or, time has passed in our therapeutic relationship, I would still offer that into the universe, right? Like, I hope Logan all the best. I wish him happiness. And that's another way of giving, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow. I have so many questions.
So it's just about creating a space of love, compassion, grace, kindness. Because I think that a lot of us are not kind to each other anymore. Because we don't understand each other anymore. We don't even want to.
No, I was going to say we don't understand each other because we don't give ourselves the opportunity to do in the first place.
And most of us are so stressed out. Look at what COVID did. So when you're stressed, your brain can't really process, I wonder what this other person is experiencing. It can only focus on how am I going to survive what I'm going through, right? So we become very I-centered.
It's so hot, I think social media contributes to that too.
Absolutely.
Because you're always just me, look at me. And no one cares about the next guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I love doing this is I get to learn about the next guy. And anybody that does a podcast with me, they walk away or I walk away and I'm like, I am now like, we have a bond now.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I can't wait to see that person win. And I feel like everybody should do that. I wish we could normalize people just sitting and having conversations with each other like this and just learning their background.
Gosh, do you know how upsetting it is sometimes to go to restaurants in our community and look around?
And everyone's just doing this.
Everyone's on their phone.
The whole family.
Yeah.
And then the kids have the iPads.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I get it, right? It's so overwhelming a lot of the times for parents that they get that 2 minutes of just, but it's becoming a little
excessive.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
And we know that it really, look at the research that's coming out. It's really, really unhealthy and it really prevents proper brain development.
Yeah.
Socialization is so crucial for development, right? And so now what we have is a bunch of kids that are anxious and inattentive and,
my wife teaches seventh graders. Okay. My wife's a second grade teacher. And I remember when we started dating during COVID, her first year teaching was the year that everyone was virtual. Ugh. And so her first real year in the classroom, she was like, oh, I can tell these kids are different. Like these kids went through kindergarten and first grade during COVID.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you know what I feel like? I would not be surprised if the most commonly used word today is screen. And because so short backstory, during Thanksgiving, we had the pleasure of waking up and seeing that my wife's car was totaled overnight by a hit and run drunk driver. Well, I'm assuming they were drunk. Because whatever. Either way, hit and run, Thanksgiving, cars totaled.
Wow.
So we've been car shopping a lot lately as of this very moment. And it's like, we say this or, comparing features of this car, that car, screen this, screen that, screen this, screen that. And it's like, I was driving the other day and I was like, how often do you say the word screen in thinking about your everyday life? And it's like, some of these kids, that's all they know. I won't be a hypocrite. That's all I know. I sit here and I do this thing with you in front of a screen. Sure. I'm going to go home and relax and eat dinner and watch TV.
Yeah.
I'm going to go probably after that and play on my phone, which is another screen. Maybe to let loose, I'll go play some video games because it's in front of a screen. And it's like, tomorrow I'm going to work from home, thank God. And I'm going to turn on my computer and work in front of that screen.
Yeah.
And when I take a break from work, I'm going to go play on my phone, which is another screen. And it's like, good God. As an adult, I'm overwhelmed.
Sure.
Imagine at every waking moment putting your 4-year-old in front of a screen, and they can't even comprehend what's going on.
Yeah.
They just see the stimulation.
So have you read the book Anxious Generation, I believe? I don't have my phone with me. Back to the screen, right? But it's a brilliant book. And what this guy talks about is that it's so hard for anyone, let alone a kid, to go from this world, right, to another world and then back to this world. So that's why we see this aggression or rage or anxiety or deviant or defiant behavior presentation when they come off of the screen for a long period of time, because they don't know how to quickly come back into this world, right? So, and they find, look, when you talk to kids, they find a lot of peace and connection in that world, right? A lot of them may not have friends in the real world, and they do have that on their online world. Honey, I've had clients who have literally had full relationships, never knowing the person, but through a screen. Like full relationship, and you're like, really? How does that work?
Yeah.
And I did close my office shortly for COVID, and I was miserable. I love human connection. I'm a people person. I love people.
I can tell.
Love meeting people. I like everything about people. It's great. I want to know your story. I just love people. I couldn't do it for long. I was like right back in my office. I opened the windows. I left the door open. I'm like, I'm here. You can wear a mask. I'll wear a mask, but I can't do the screen thing. People call me now for telehealth, and I just say, I'm just not a telehealth provider. Yes, if we're working together and we've been working together for a long time,
Sure,
and you're going on a trip and you're like, please, can we have one session? Cool. But to start and end the entire therapeutic relationship on a screen,
it just doesn't work.
How much we miss on a screen.
Correct.
You know, those physiological cues. I mean, you can see the just little things that change about people when they even talk about situations in their life. And plus, I didn't think people could be really honest on a screen when their spouse or mom or dad is in the other room right next. I mean, hello, you need that break to come into a space that is just calm, comforting, and soothing for you to just go, oh, okay. For the next hour, it's just me. Like you said to me, all of your colorful language is welcome. You can say anything you want, just don't hit me, right? That's my basic rule. But like, to have that opportunity, why would I want to do that over a screen?
No.
No.
And I even relate to that just from doing this.
Absolutely.
I mean, every once in a while, people are like, can we do it virtually? And I'm like, do you live in the area? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, then no.
No.
I if I have to or need to, I'll do them virtually. And same thing over COVID. I hated doing it virtually. Hated doing it because you don't get the energy and the back and forth that we're having.
Right.
Whereas like if this was a virtual interview and you're at your home and I'm at my home, I guarantee I would hang up the call and be like, that was a good episode, but I don't feel like I'm connected to you.
Right.
Like, that's why I say everyone who leaves out of here, like we have a bond now.
Exactly.
That's like, if I ever see you, I'm like, oh my God, I run up and give you a hug. I'm like, oh my God. Hey, how's it going? You know, but when you do the virtual interviews, you hang up and you're like, huh, that was good.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had the fortune of being able to do some interviews with some really cool, I don't want to call them celebrities, but I mean, some semi-famous people. Cool. And of course, they're all virtual because they all live wherever. And I wish so bad it was in person.
Yeah.
But then again, what's Bill Gates going to fly to Marietta and do this with me?
You wish?
I wish.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Why
Hey,
not?
Bill, if you see this, I'm available anytime.
And he's cool, Bill. Come on.
Hey, yeah. I like that. I like that endorsement.
Absolutely. So
when you open up your own practice, and so I'm curious about this from the standpoint of like my therapist, she is in a office of other therapists, but I don't know if there's like a boss per se. Would you consider you the boss, or is this just your building that you give to other therapists to run their own? How does it work?
So,
do you know what I'm saying?
Sure. So I have an amazing marketing team. And What we do is I'm going to create this space for you, and I'm going to help you build out your clients. So the people that I have hired, I hate that word, that we have an agreement that they're gonna be on board and they're gonna be part of East Cobb Counseling. Again, they are unique individuals. They bring their own style to the practice. So I'm not going to tell you have to fit into some sort of box. Like, I hate that level of rigidity. I want them to be able to be who they are as clinicians, right? It's an art. You learn all this stuff at school, but then the implementation is different. What you practice is a little bit different, right? Each person that you meet, you're gonna have different things that come up at different times and that type of thing. So anyway, so what we do is we create the space, the environment, and we help them build out their caseload. So they tell me what type of person they want to work with, what would be their most preferred identified client type thing. And then we market for those clients and see if they're a good fit. So we do a lot of the beginning stages. So when people call, they usually call East Cobb Counseling as a practice, and then we can choose who would be the best clinician for them depending on their presentation.
That makes total sense. I was just going to say, is it like if I were to go to your website and say, hey, I want to contact you guys, you build out who I am and the kind of person, you get kind of like very light. I can't, it's been a year and I already forget what my process was like when I went looking for a therapist, but either way. And then they say, okay, well, it sounds like you'd be best fitted for X.
Right. And a lot of people, because I've been in the community for a long time, some people may call and want to work with me specifically, but there are many times that I'm full, right? So that I wouldn't be able to put you on my calendar for, let's say, like a month or even sometimes 6 weeks. So then I would say, but I have other people who are brilliant at what they do, and I would love for you to give them an opportunity to meet with them and see if this works for you. And what we do is we allow them to either call the clinician or the clinician to call them, and then they can have a chat, right? Sure. They can chat on the phone and see if this is somebody that I would even want to move into this process with. And on the website, you can see everybody's bio. Gives you a little bit of information about who they are and how they address different situations that you may be presenting with, right? Sure. So you can kind of gauge who you would want just from that. And then if let's say you call me, because I could only speak for myself, I will then help you through that process if need be. Like I said, I'm not I don't really work with some populations, and that's fine. So if I get a phone call for that population, I do have clinicians that will be better suited for them. And that's what I would say, right? Yeah. So again, just being really honest and transparent with clients is really important also. And knowing what your limitations, strengths, weaknesses, preferences are, so that, again, they can get the best experience for themselves. Because it's not cheap. And it's a commitment. And if you don't have a good experience, you're not going to want to come back. No. And you're not going to go to someone else. And I don't ever want to take that away. Just like you're saying, like, it's such an amazing experience. I don't want to take that away from someone because I didn't do my part in this process.
Right. How do you balance your life? I mean, so like you talked about, you get to make your own schedule. Yeah. You talked about, you might not have time on your calendar, whereas I'm sure you do have the time, but how do you choose, well, I could take on that client every week, but then I'm going to lose that hour of this in life. How do you balance? Or because sorry to cut you off again, but you talked earlier about you have to accept that you can't help everybody.
Absolutely.
How do you do the work-life balance thing?
So everything that I ask someone else to do, I am practicing. So you mentioned it in the introduction, it's holistic. It's all about the spirit, the mind, the body, right? So I'm working out every day. And that I'm not going to.
Every day?
I'm not good. My commitment to myself about 3 or 4 years ago was to move every single day for at least 30 minutes. I try to do more than that. right? So at
Good
least
for you.
an
That's
hour.
badass.
Well, and I know myself enough to know that I can only do it in the mornings. I prefer to do it in the mornings because I know that if I do it in the morning, I've done it, check it off my list, and I can go. Coming home at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. at night,
You're not
I'm
doing
not
it.
going to the gym.
Nah.
No. And we, again, gratitude. We created a room in our home that is a gym because it was really difficult to go to the gym, right?
Sure.
So we just created a space that we just add on to, right, throughout the years. And luckily, both of us are really focused on health and fitness and wellness. So we practice that and we support each other through that.
Good.
And one of the beautiful things is that we see how what we model shows up in our kids, because now we see both of our kids and they both also work out, take care of themselves, are aware of what they're eating, look at nutritional components that they're putting into their bodies and their minds and what they're exposing themselves to. So again, you give what you've been given, right? And so this is what we've given them just by doing it, not by telling them to do it, but just by modeling it for them. And that's the other thing with my clients. I'm doing it so that it's not so far-fetched when I ask you to do it. And
Sure.
I may not ask you to do the exact same thing as me, but add that into your daily routine. Again, it goes back to self-love. And the highest form of self-love is discipline. Because if I can say to myself, you're worth it enough to show up for yourself. Isn't that amazing? And the more that you make that promise to yourself and the more that you then follow through with that, think about it. If your wife, because you've talked about her quite a lot today, so I know that you really love this human, right? So if you make a promise
She's
to her.
all right.
Yeah, she's all right. If you make a promise to her.
Don't kill me.
Are you going to follow through with that promise?
Yeah.
Yeah, because what does it say to her? Just by you following through, what do you say to her?
It's that I love you.
I love you. You're important.
Yeah.
So if I make a promise to
matter.
myself, but I don't follow through with it, what am I telling myself on a cellular level?
You don't matter.
I don't matter. I'm not that important. So if I do make a promise and I do show up and I continue to show up, what am I telling myself?
You matter.
I matter.
You're important.
I'm important. And if I know I'm important, then I'm going to continue to do things that honor and love and respect me. And then you will transcendently do that for those in your life. Because it has to start with you. How can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? How can you show up for other people but not show up for yourself? How can you be a resource if you're not resourced? So again, back to mind, body, spirit, right? What do I do? I challenge myself to work out and maintain that practice regularly. I read. I try to become educated because our field is ever changing constantly. So you got to keep up with going to CEUs and continuing education. My Instagram is filled with other therapists, not people that I love, because I don't care about what you're wearing, where you're going, and what you're doing. I care about growing me. And that's part of self-care.
Yeah, yes it is.
And then I really believe in friends and family and community and having fun. Like, it can't just all be work, right? So that balance is also very important. So on the weekends, I try to hang out with my friends, be around people that bring me joy and excitement, and always looking forward to doing something, like whether it's meeting my sister somewhere or like in the world, right? Traveling. That's a big thing for me. I love to travel. I love to experience new cultures. I love to experience new things. So that's a huge part of it. You can't do that every weekend, but at least you put that on your to-do list and then you make it happen, right? So again, it's all of this follow through.
I was just going to say, it's all about the follow through. I mean, we can sit here and talk all day and night how we're going to go on vacation together, but it'll never happen unless we say, okay, well, let's book the damn thing.
Right, exactly.
Let's book the place. Let's book the weekend. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And make a commitment, right? That it's going to happen and I'm going to do my part and you're going to do your part. And that's because we both want to experience that thing. And then nutrition is huge. So my spouse is also a nutritionist. So this is where it gets really fun because there is more freaking healthy pills in our house. Wears me out. But it's great, right? Because we're always looking at how can we be better, right?
Yeah.
How can we feed ourselves better? What foods are we consuming? And that's another thing that we really focus on is what are we consuming in regards to food and nutrition? Yeah. So meal prep is important.
Yeah.
And all of this takes People think it takes a lot of time. It just takes time, and it just takes a practice. Like if you
Sure.
begin it and you and your spouse are doing it together, because you never really want to do something by yourself, right? That's why we want to have other people to do things with.
Mhm.
You just do it and it feels really good. And then when you've done it for a week, you're like, I can do
It's
that.
a routine now.
It's a routine.
Right.
It becomes part of who we are and what we're practicing together.
Love that. So I assume you're not eating a whole lot of McDonald's.
Sir, I can't tell you the last time I've ever had a McDonald's. I was introduced to the Big Mac from my spouse, I think, 8 years ago? And that was probably the last time I've ever eaten. I don't eat that. That's not even in my, that's not even something that I'm like craving. Like,
I'm craving it right now.
Oh my God,
I'm thinking about it right now.
I would rather like a good chocolate chip cookie. That would be my kind of like
That's your
craving, my treat. But I don't really, again, it's just not something that I really witnessed even in my home. We weren't, my mom was diabetic, so sweets weren't a big thing. My dad does have a bit of a sweet tooth, but it was kind of thought of as like, I don't want to eat that.
I crave candy.
Really?
A lot.
Really?
Oh God, yeah. Too much. It's horrible.
Really?
I get it from my mom. She gets it from her dad.
Right.
Oh
so
God.
all this generation. And it's what we see, right? And if it's accessible, we're going to do it.
God.
So we just don't buy stuff like that.
We would go to the movies as kids, and we would go to like CVS or Dollar Tree and buy like those dollar boxes of candy. And God knows, some nights I legitimately will sit there and think, I want some candy. So I'll get in the car and go to the gas station and buy a bag of candy. I love candy.
Really?
Oh God, it's so bad. I love candy.
That's interesting.
It's horrible, but I love it so much. It's so unhealthy. God.
Yeah, I don't share that. I'm not a big sweet person. I do like a good cookie now and
I'm
again.
jealous though. I wish I
honestly have a jar of candy in my office. It's usually just for clients who ever want something. You know what I'm saying?
What you got is at least good.
Yes, sometimes I do get the occasional ridicule or criticism from a client, like because I try to at least be somewhat healthy, right? So,
yeah.
Well, I remember we got these what is supposed to be like a really healthy version of a Reese's peanut butter cup from Costco. Yeah, it didn't go over well at all. What is this? I think was the exact
What is this shit?
What is this shit? Why are you doing this? No, I want the real deal when I come here. I'm like, noted. Got it.
Oh my.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You know what? I'll keep that at home
No
for
more
myself.
off-brand Reese's.
Right. But it's so good.
Is it?
Well, yeah. It's only 2 grams of sugar. It's a healthy version.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah.
So what's the long term? So what's the goal with East Cobb Counseling? I mean, where do you go from here? Is it multiple locations? Is it?
I don't
Are you going to write a
know.
book? You seem like someone who's right. I bet you're writing it right now. Are you writing a book?
I'm not. After writing my dissertation, I've just been
true.
and that was a long time ago. I mean, that was since 2011. But I'm just like,
Wow.
ugh. I've flirted with the idea, but I really don't want to sit in front of a computer and write. I really prefer to be out doing things and being active in the community. So, I mean, maybe, but what I would love to do is continue building out East Cobb Counseling and then really doing more of a wellness component. So I would love to get into like more physical fitness and health. Yeah, nutrition, a big one. And doing a lot of psychoeducational type things.
Sure.
Just educating people on what would work better or
like
be
that.
better for them. You know what I'm saying?
Just
So
all revolved around caring for somebody.
and just having a healthy lifestyle, right? And just making healthy choices. Like I said, it doesn't have to be all the time, every day. I mean, you're going to still enjoy your candy, but you're in therapy.
Hey, that's right. Hey,
So
where I'm a
both things
piece of
can
shit in
exist.
one bucket, but I'm going to therapy and trying to do something good for myself in the other.
I mean, I'm sure that when you have that candy and you enjoy it,
Ugh.
as long as you can consciously say, I'm enjoying this piece of candy because I have had a hard day and I just want it.
I deserve it.
And that's fine. It's when we do things unconsciously. It's when
Well,
we're just doing it because it's just this thing to do and we're just gorging because it feels good. That's where I'd say, Logan, maybe we have a problem.
Yeah, maybe. I have a problem in that if I'm inconvenienced minorly, I'll say, you know what? That's bullshit. Let's go get McDonald's. It's horrible, but like, if I have a shitty day at work, I'm like, I want to not have a shitty night. So let's.
But can you say I've had a shitty day at work. I don't want to have a shitty night, and I want this thing that's going to feel really good in the moment. And can you also make the executive decision that that's not the best thing for you?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Most often it's me calling my wife. I'm like, hey, what did you have planned for dinner tonight? And she'll say, oh, I'm going to make this. I'm like, or we could do this. And sometimes she's like, fuck it, let's do it. And sometimes she says, no, we're going to do this. We're trying to be better. Or she says, hey, we've been spending a lot lately. Let's reel it in, which I'm thankful for because I am the one that is
she's
like
the voice of reason.
She's the voice of reason.
We all have to have one of those.
I'm the one in the background, like the Grinch that's let's celebrate. Let's go celebrate it. Oh my God, Kimberly, I am the worst I am the best at saying, oh, you had a good day? Let's go celebrate it. Let's go get Mexican. Let's go get pizza.
You had a bad day? Let's go get Mexican. We'll feel better. Yeah, either way.
Yeah. I'll find a way to manipulate the situation to let me go get it. I just love going out to eat though.
Oh, really?
Oh God, I love it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because when we were kids, we didn't have a lot of money growing up.
Sure.
And so when we went out to eat, it was like a celebration. It was a great treat to be able to go out. Because, I also had 2 younger siblings.
Okay.
And, my parents, taking a family of 5 out to eat is not cheap.
Right.
So to be able to go out as a family and get dinner and get the chips and salsa and get the soda. I mean, it was such a treat growing up that now, like, I feel like it's like, oh, let's go celebrate it. Let's go out to eat.
Yeah.
But I want to do it like every damn day. And it's not healthy.
Yeah.
From a health perspective and a financial perspective.
True. Yeah. But how do you feel after?
I mean, it's pretty shitty sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's my biggest thing. To just feel like crap.
It's like, feel like I can't move.
Right. Like, and listen, here's the deal. If you eat clean for 2 weeks, you're not going to want that crap. Okay, you're going to want it. But
you're less likely to give in.
Indulge in it. Absolutely.
Love that.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, but look how much work I've done. It's like when you get on the treadmill and you see what it took to burn 500 calories, and then you look at the back of something and you're like 260 calories. You're
so easy.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, right?
Yeah.
So you become a little bit more aware of what you're putting in your body.
You do.
But again, you seem to be happy. You look good.
I seem that way.
Yeah. But again, I'm in therapy.
I'm going to therapy. I was just going to say, I'm going to therapy.
Yeah. But I think that's where I kind of want to go, would be to really create a space to have all of those components so that I can meet the client again in all of those parts of their world, right?
Yeah, that's really good. That's really almost pairing like, hey, you can come to this side of the building and we'll get you right in the mind, but then we'll come over here and we'll help you make decisions that will make your life and body, everything healthier.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, a lot of people would wonder, why wouldn't I do maybe have somebody who's a psychiatrist or something on board for medication? Because a lot of our clients do use medication at some point in their process. And that's really important.
Sure.
Because there's a space for medication, but I don't want you to be on medication for the rest of your life. The idea is, unless you have something that really needs long-term medication management and care, absolutely. But I would really like to create a space where you can learn new tools, techniques, coping skills, strategies that can help you titrate off the medication and feel whole, right? Feel like your whole world isn't falling apart around you and that you have some sense of control in your world by just implementing small, methodical changes. And I think nutrition is a huge piece of that. And exercise. We don't move enough. We're so sedentary. Mm-hmm. And we need movement. Movement is life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Kimberly, there comes a point in every conversation I have with every guest where I ask them a collection of questions that I don't tell them about before.
Oh boy.
And it has really nothing to do with your craft. It's really more just to do with everyday Kimberly.
Okay.
Just day to day. They're very first date kind of questions. They're very easy. There's a couple deep ones, but for the most part, it's just to let the people, we just heard all about, where you come from, your aspirations, what you do on a daily basis. But this will let people see like just a little bit more glimpse into who you are as a person. You ready?
Sure.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about the company that makes your morning drive happen every week. Are you looking to elevate your business and your brand? Hammerhead Creations is here to help. They offer top-tier marketing services, including social media management, website design, and Google page optimization, ensuring your business reaches the right audience. Whether it's a side hustle or your full-time grind, their expert team, me, is ready to help you grow. Plus, if you're into podcasting like me, Hammerhead Creations offers full support for both in-house shows and external podcast creation. From concept to production, we will help you bring your ideas to life. Visit www.hammerheadcreations.com and discover how we can take your business or your podcast or both to the next level. Hammerhead Creations, swim with the big sharks. What's your favorite movie?
That's so tough. And plus, I'm not good at movies. Honestly, like when we do watch a movie, I have to look at my spouse and be like, who's that? What movie were they in? Because I'm not a good. You know what? I saw Wicked yesterday.
What'd you think?
Absolutely.
Loved it?
Amazing.
So good, right?
So good. So today it would be Wicked. No, it was brilliant.
So good.
I mean, I cried a lot of it.
Oh, I did too.
Oh, did you?
I'm a crier.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm such a softie.
Oh,
So
dude, same here.
I loved it. That was absolutely brilliant.
Wasn't it though?
I loved it.
I went in because I know my wife really wanted to see it. From the first time we saw a trailer from it, she said,
Sure.
oh, we have to go see that together.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you a big movie person?
Oh, yeah.
Going to the movies
Oh,
person?
God, yes.
Okay, because I hate it.
Really?
I do not like it at all. Look, a bunch of people sitting around chomping, looking at their phones, not respecting other people's boundaries. It's a tricky place to be in, right?
Correct.
So, and you're locked in there for like 2-3 hours at a time. So I'm usually, when I say that I want to go to the movies to see a movie, it's going to be like an amazing movie. And yesterday was one of those days.
Yesterday was one of those days. Yeah, you know, that aspect of the movie theater experience is the only thing that I think it has going against it, is that the movies is one of those places that anyone can go.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, how much money you make.
Sure.
You know, if you don't make shit for money to have a living, but you know that the new Disney movie's coming out at the end of the summer, you're going to take your kids to go see the new Disney movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I want to go see the new Moana movie. Maybe I like Disney movies, but I also don't want to sit in the theater at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday with moms and dads and all their kids. And kids, you know, they laugh, they cry, they talk a lot. They don't sit still.
Right.
And it's like, damn, I love movies and I'd love to go see that new kids movie, but I also don't want to deal with all that crap in the theater.
Sure.
So if I do go see a kids movie, it's going to be like the 11 o'clock at night show. But I'll just pass out.
All of those things that you just mentioned happened yesterday at our movie.
Yeah, I bet. Okay. And it's annoying as hell.
But you know what? The worst part of it is that I'm such a hyper-vigilant person. So I'm aware, yes, of what's going on in the big, beautiful screen in front of me, but also every little thing going on around me.
Kimberly, you and I are the same.
Call it what you want. But I'm so freaking hyper-vigilant. So I knew the guy behind us was getting pissed off at a mom with 2 kids, like to the left of us. Everybody else that was in my party could not give a hoot what was going on behind, next to. They didn't care. But I was also consumed by that because I knew he was getting really upset. And to the point where he like shushed her. And then at one point she was looking at something for her. I don't know what she was doing, but she had her light on her phone. And he ran up behind her and he was like, stop. And I was like,
really?
Oh my God. Yes.
Wow.
In Wicked. And listen, we're in a nice movie theater, right? We're in East Cobb.
Yeah, I was going to say, where'd you go?
At Merchants Walk.
Okay.
We went like the noon movie. So you can have a beer, chill, have a glass of wine, watch your movie. It's not supposed to be all of that. You know, why, guy? Just chill. She's a mom with 2 kids. Now, she should have known that it was a 3-hour movie, but here we are.
It was a 3-hour movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy is it flew by for me.
It did, because it was brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
It was so good. I went in not knowing a thing about it. I don't know. I never seen the play.
Oh, you never saw it? Okay.
I've seen the original Wizard of Oz. That was one of my mother's favorite movies.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I watched that a lot growing up, but I never knew the story. And I always grew up never looking into it, but I always thought, like, who gives a shit about this Wicked? What's this Wicked thing?
Ah.
And then I finally, when the movie comes out, she's like, we're going to go see the movie. So me and my wife go, and within the first 20 minutes, I was hooked. I was in. I was like, so this is the origin story for the villain of The Wizard of Oz. She was like, yes. And I was like, oh, baby. And I was sucked in.
Yeah.
And
it was done really well.
that last scene where she's up, her black cape is flapping. I think I cried at that.
Me too.
Because I'm not just a crier at emotional things. I'm a crier at like big, powerful.
Yeah.
The music is musicking, the
Yes.
singing, her vocals. I was just like, holy shit, what's happening right now?
Her voice was freaking impeccable.
And then it cuts to black, and I was like, that shit rocked. I think I looked at my wife, and I was like, that shit
I want to know
rocked.
who she is. I should have looked it up. Who she is as an actress.
I don't
She
know.
was absolutely
She was amazing.
Brilliant.
I've seen her in a couple other things, but I don't know her name off the top. But I thought Ariana Grande did really well, as well. Yeah. Very good job.
Yeah.
But
no, it was really, really good.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'd have to say Wicked today.
It's a good answer. It's a good answer. What was your first ever job, even before professional life?
So I worked for my dad for about a week, and then it sucked because he didn't want to pay me for my time because he thought that I didn't do a good job. So then so I was like,
damn, Dad.
I know, bump that. He was trying to raise us to be strong kids. And the point is, I quit that very quickly, and I became a bartender.
Bartender, really?
Now you have to remember also, island, Caribbean. So I was working at a bar at 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And drinking at a bar. Right?
Hell yeah.
And I also worked, funny story, I also did a lot of promotions for different clubs and stuff in Trinidad. So like, because I worked at the bar, I would meet a lot of people. I mean, you have to think, all my friends, peers, people. So you're just out partying. And it was probably the most fun job ever. Maybe that's where I really decided to become a therapist, because you hear a lot of interesting stories from people who are drinking at a bar.
You're a bartender. You are their therapist for the duration of them sitting there.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it was interesting, some of the stories I was hearing probably at 17 years old. And I think that was another reason that I wanted to leave and go off to school. And my mom really pushed it, was because what was I going to do? Like, if I didn't go to college or university, what was I going to do? Work at a bar? Because that was great for then, but it's not what you want to do for the rest of your life, right?
Sure.
So creating an opportunity for me to experience something more, that was the greatest gift she ever gave me.
And bartending at such a young age too, I mean, that teaches you a lot about people skills and how to talk to people and how to serve and how to interact. Whereas like I often get on this soapbox of, if you're young and you're trying to get a first job, you should work in a restaurant, because you'll know how to deal with difficult people, how to make friends with the great people, how to serve, how to correct your mistakes.
And I think you really learn how to navigate your own social anxiety.
Yes.
Because you can look, I had anxiety coming in here, and it's just you and I, right? My pits were sweating, my palms were sweating. I didn't know what to expect. So there's this increased cortisol and adrenaline response to the unexpected, the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But you learn to navigate it, and you learn to just sit in it, or do some deep belly breathings, or, play with my chapstick in my pocket, right? Because I have to also fidget, right? Move this as much as I need to.
Sure.
But you learn how to be in your own anxiety and it be okay. Because I have anxious responses to things every single day. I'm in front of new people, new clients, new situations. I have people who come into my office and they are in a full trauma response, right? And what do? What am I going to do? Cry? I mean, I want to. You see me
Have you ever cried with people?
I have teared up. I want to cry, but I also have to
be the strong person in that moment.
I just want to be there for them.
True.
So if they feel now that they have to take care of my emotions, am I doing them a disservice? Because they probably felt like they had to take care of everybody's emotions their entire life. Now their own freaking therapist can't hold it together. Like,
you almost feel like you're doing a disservice to them.
Absolutely. To now somehow be more consumed in my own emotional response, that's so unfair. That's not why they're there. So to be able to really just keep it in check and just say, breathe.
Yeah.
You got this. And just send them good energy. Like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're in this together. You're not alone.
Wow.
So really more of a supportive role than like a hierarchical role.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. Next one is...
I know we're only on number 2.
Next one is when you guys go out to eat and you're looking at the menu, or let's maybe say that you're trying a new place and you're looking at the menu. Are you guys appetizer people or dessert people?
Appetizer all the way.
Okay. Well, then follow up on that is no matter where you go, if you see a certain appetizer, some people ride for chips and salsa. Some people like me, I love a good soft pretzel with cheese. Some people love the mozzarella sticks. What's one that you look at and you're like, oh, we'll get that?
Anything tuna related.
Really?
A tuna poke, tuna bowl, anything tuna. Oh, crab cake.
Okay.
But then my spouse perfected a crab cake. So now you're like, if I can do it better,
right,
and I love what we do, then I'm not going to go out and purchase it. Like, we can do a really good steak. So I'm not going to go out for steak, but I'm going to go for a place that I'm never going to cook that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's kind of what I generally like to experience.
I like that.
Yeah, because especially if it takes forever to cook and we're just going to waste it, I'd rather go out and try it at a really good place and have that experience. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then to piggyback off that, the next one is if you found out tomorrow was your last day on Earth, tonight, what would your last dinner be?
Probably exactly what we're going to have, which is I'm going to make a salmon bowl. Ooh. So it's just it's an Asian take on salmon, and it just has a lot of really good microbiome type foods. So everything pickled ginger, pickled onions, edamame, just a bunch of really nice, clean, healthy things. Because guess what tomorrow is? Monday. And I have to be at 100%. So what I eat today is going to affect how I show up tomorrow, right?
I like that.
So I want to be able to get up, work out really hard in the morning, do all the things that I need to do so that when I meet my first clients, I'm ready to rock and roll.
That's a good answer.
Thanks.
You get to organize a music festival for yourself.
Oh, cool.
So who are your 3 ideal headliners?
So I was a 90s kid and an MTV kid.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, like that would be a little tough because I really grew up around like Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, that type of music was our jam, right?
Sure.
Now I really just throw on Spotify or Pandora and just let it roll.
Let it rip.
Yeah. So honestly, I wouldn't even know who I would really truly want. Let me think for a minute. Because one of the people that I really wanted to see in concert was Pink, and we went to see her, and she was
amazing?
Amazing. Went to Boston to see her.
Wow.
Yeah, she was amazing.
I went through a little Pink phase, weirdly enough. My mom went through a Pink phase, and I then also, of course, went through a Pink phase because my mom listened to a Pink.
Right.
And she rocks.
Yeah, she does rock. And she's so uplifting, and she's so much about, just being there for people and being very supportive. So I do love that part of her also. Like she wants to give back, and she wants to be somewhat philanthropic as well.
It's a hard word to say.
Yeah. Especially when you have a little cold. But so, yeah, definitely like Pink. But I mean, like, I really love music on the whole. So I'm trying to think.
Who are you jamming in the shower? Who is your shower concert?
I love 80s.
Yeah.
So like I love Tom Petty. Yeah. So I'm more of that REO Speedwagon.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
good choice there.
Yeah, but that's again my father, right? I would never forget. When we were growing up, he would have his record player, and he would just throw on records, and we'll jam out and dance together, and it was just a really fun time. So that has not only the memory of beautiful music, but this experience that I had with my parents and my family that was just so beautiful and so connecting. You know what I mean? So when I listen to it, I have those memories, right?
Love that. Love that. On a day that you're not working, which I'm sure is few and far between, but on those days, how do you take care of yourself?
So I love to go out for hikes. We love to be out in nature. We have a Swiss doodle. His name is Wags, and he's the best thing ever. We've had dogs, but he's our current dog, so he is the greatest dog ever.
Of course.
And he is extremely active. He's 2 years old, and he keeps us very busy. So in the morning, he's definitely one that's like, got to go for a run. That's another thing. So in the morning, we have to at least go for a 2 to 3 mile run with Wags.
Well, then that helps.
Exactly. So he's helping us in our journey as well.
He doesn't know it, but He's doing a good
He's
thing.
doing a good thing. So yeah, a lot of that, or being with friends, you know, I mean, like right now it's cold in Georgia. It's very cold. So obviously we didn't hike this weekend, but we did go visit friends and hang out with them and, you know, have a few cocktails, nothing too crazy, but just have a good time, you know, and catch up with people that are important in our lives. Over the summer, we took up mountain biking. I know.
Really?
Yeah, it was super cool, actually. A neighbor, friend of ours, Kevin, he was taking his daughter and he's like, you guys want to go? And we were like, yeah. And then all of a sudden it became a Saturday morning kind of ritual. And then we would go down to Woodstock and go eat lunch at Salt or wherever. I know, great.
Love Woodstock.
Yeah, I love Woodstock too, really. That's what I love about East Cobb. You're just so central to all of these really cool spots. Like you can jump in your car and you can go to Woodstock. You could jump in your car and you can go to Roswell. Same thing for Marietta Square. Same thing for the city, right? It's just so accessible. So that's why I really love East Cobb also, because you're not just limited. I don't want to be limited. So, but again, so those are the kind of things that I like to do. We're pretty active. I like being active. Like I said, I made a promise to myself that I was going to move every day. So that's going to be something that we're going to look to at least check off and then move from there.
Good.
Yeah.
What is something that very little people know about you?
I don't know. Well,
What's your deepest, darkest secret?
I know. I see you trying to get in there. I don't know. What's my secret?
Or let me reframe it then, in that what's a position that you have on something that either your spouse or your friends, you tease each other about because they just absolutely disagree with you? For example, I have a friend who loves when he eats pizza, it's just all ranch with it. He just dips it in ranch, loves ranch. I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I think ranch, period, is disgusting.
Right.
And that's the thing that my friends will give me shit about is they're like, oh, you don't like ranch? I'm like, no, I hate ranch. It's disgusting. But they want to put my head on a spike for it. What's your thing?
To follow on that one, I used to have this strange relationship with ketchup. I used to put ketchup on everything.
Dude, I do put ketchup on everything.
I don't anymore. Like, I don't like ketchup anymore.
What?
I don't know. I think I just ate so much of it, like, forever. Oh, literally, when I worked at the prison, I would literally walk with my own bottle of ketchup to put on my lunch. Yeah.
That's kind of badass, though.
Put ketchup on everything.
You're packing ketchup.
Look, you could not walk in that prison with a lot of things, but somehow I got my ketchup bottle in.
Somehow you're like, listen, I can't come in
But
here
I'm
with a
trying to
lot.
think of something that's like, not to follow up on your friend, like, what is it that maybe a quirk, because I can be somewhat quirky. I'm very particular. I like things a certain way. I mean, I definitely teeter on that if we had to do a diagnosis, that OCD type tendency. But again, I do have some anxiety. So that trends, right?
Yeah.
But I like things a certain way. And I have a hard time when somebody else doesn't like it my way. So being married and being in a relationship has been a wonderful opportunity for me to grow through that, right? And to accept that it's not
everybody.
And it's not always going to be my way. Let's take something like laundry. I like things folded a certain way. And I would...
Do you do the laundry?
I would try to, but I'm also at my office. So sometimes I have to give up that control. But we have come to a place where there's some agreement on how things are folded.
Sure.
Right? That's
sure.
what happens.
That's compromise.
Exactly. And that's what happens in relationships.
Love that.
And then you just get to the place where you're like, I'm just so grateful that somebody else is willing to do my laundry. So get over it, right? And those are the conversations I have to have with myself at times.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because I could really get into this whole thing about why my way is probably better, but it's silly, Logan. So I have to let it go.
I'm sensing a little bit of hostility in your voice there.
Only love.
Only love.
Only love and acceptance. And I'm really, truly grateful that somebody else is willing to do our laundry.
That's what my wife says, because I do the laundry.
Oh, wow.
I do it for both of us.
Wow, you see? Because I do have some couples who have gotten into laundry conflict.
Really?
And it's like, oh, you do yours and I do mine. And there's no there's no sharing.
Just coming from the dude who does both of our laundry, I think that takes more time.
Right.
For you to do it, it takes more time to separate. It takes more time to, all right, well, I'm going to do mine on this day, or you're going to do on yours this day, or maybe you leave it in there overnight, because we've all done that. Right. You leave it, so that, it's bleeding over into my laundry time. I just do it all.
But at the end of that, I mean, is it really about the laundry?
Maybe that's my contribution. One of my contributions.
Yeah.
She does so much. She does all the cooking and clean. Or no, I clean, she cooks. But then I'm like, she does a lot of cooking though. So maybe I'll do more. I'll do,
look at that. So there's this awareness, right? So, but that's beautiful.
It hasn't always been that way.
Sure.
But I'm in therapy.
Exactly. And couples work is so beautiful because it really allows an opportunity for you to put a mirror up to each other and show parts that you generally don't like or do like about yourself, and say, okay, how am I going to be better for this person that I say that I love, right? So again, that kind of opportunity for that introspection.
I also am a completionist. I love checking things off. I like marking the to-do thing off. I have this weird, I love putting all the clothes, the shirts, whatever's on hangers and putting them in their spots.
Right.
Like everything's got a place, of course.
I agree with you.
You and I are very similar, I've learned. We're both very OCD about things, because I also like things a certain way. And if someone throws a wrench in that, I immediately go into a mode of what the fuck is going on? And it's very nerve-wracking, but then I have the voice of reason that is not everything's about you.
Right.
Take a deep breath.
Yep.
And then we move on.
Yep. But then I want you to really explore, you're probably doing this in therapy already. Who is this part that needs this level
Where's
of
this
control?
come from?
Where does this come from? And where did I maybe in a part of my life not feel like I had that much control?
And that's it, Kimberly.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the one.
Right.
How often, just quick side note, how often do people come to the conclusion that all the problems that they have today are because of their childhood?
That's probably the biggest.
Because I've come to that conclusion a lot
yes,
lately.
Absolutely. That we can all track it back to a historical component, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not really about you and your wife and your laundry. Nope. It's something that happened with, But that's where we do most of our learning. Remember, we're looking out into the world, especially as kids. We're extremely egocentric. Mm-hmm. We're looking out into the world and we're getting messages from these two idiots, including myself as a parent, idiot, that have to provide me all the things that I need, right, to survive. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I want the most, which we all want the most, is to be seen, heard, and loved. And so we're constantly looking for cues that I am loved, that I am accepted, right? And there are a lot of times that our parents did things just because they were stressed, just because they had other things going on. It's really not their fault, right? But it's just the circumstances that we were in at the time. And we, as that little person, right, that 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old, received that information and created this narrative, this core belief about ourselves that somehow we were not enough or we were flawed in some capacity. And we have to go back to that part and heal that. We're not responsible for the pain. But we are responsible for our healing. So I prefer to take the position of, I love my parents. They're amazing people. They're flawed human beings? Absolutely. And when I realized that my parents were flawed, that was a hard time. You're like, wait, they're not perfect? What?
Yeah. You mean the person that I thought was perfect isn't actually perfect?
What's wrong with you? So then you look for everything that they do wrong and you're like, there it is. It is. Right? But I mean, at the end of the day, they're just human beings as well, just trying to figure it out, right? So what do you prefer, to have a relationship with them or be angry at them? I mean, again, it comes back to choice. Yep. And there's sometimes that some people cannot have relationships with their parents because it's unhealthy and toxic, right? Like, I get that, but just my experience.
Sure. I relate.
Absolutely.
Couple more. What is your biggest fear?
Frogs.
Really?
Dude, terrified. Hate them.
Really?
So, my dad's a bit of a prankster. Oldest of 11 kids. His mom's a big prankster. I'm terrified of frogs. Terrified.
Okay. Noted. Good to know.
No, don't even try. I mean, I would listen. There have been a few people that I would go down swinging with a frog.
Really?
No, I do not like frogs.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good to know. I'm not going to do anything with that.
Thank God.
But
yeah, and they're not bad creatures, but when you have really scary experiences as a kid, you're just like,
There it is.
Yeah.
Back to the childhood.
Back to the childhood.
And then lastly, Kimberly, what does success look like to you?
I think it's the ability to just simply breathe and accept where I am, regardless. Where I'm going to have trials, tribulations, obstacles, right? But if I can focus on today, focus on just this moment and the experience that I'm having and showing up as my best self in this moment, I'm good.
I love that. It's a good answer.
Yeah. I think that, we attach a lot of value on external things like money, wealth, a boat, a plane. But at the end of the day, I mean, I see it all the time. You can have as many Amazon packages showing up at your house. Doesn't make you feel like a better person.
Nope.
No,
if anything, it makes me mad. And I'm like, why is there...
Well, why are you back?
I'm actually blessed in that my wife is the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And you see, okay, so this is how this goes. When it comes to spending money, I'm always down for the big thing. She wants the little things. So she'll order the little things.
Right.
But not very often. I can't sit here and say, oh, she's a shopaholic or anything. I'm very lucky. She does not do that. She's not that person. If anything, I'm that person. In fact, my toxic trait, Kimberly, is the fact that my wife's car is the one that was destroyed on Thanksgiving. And we're sitting here at the dealership and I'm sitting there brainstorming ways that I could figure out how to get a new car too. I am my mother's son. My mother likes new things. My toxic trait is that I love new things.
I do as well. I do like new things. But you know what? It's interesting because on the flip side of that same exact coin, I will take care of the things that I have. So I actually drive a 2007 Infiniti.
Shut the hell up.
I swear to God. And I'm not going to get rid of it.
No way. How many miles are on that thing?
I don't care. I hate a car payment more than I hate and I don't have the big screen or any of the fancy things, but it gets me for me. But do I long for a new car? But number one, I don't even know what I want. So that must be
that's such a
place.
huge jump.
It is
2007 to 2025.
Yeah.
Golly.
Right, exactly. I wouldn't even know what to do, right?
It's like a spaceship.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, whoa, what's this? What does this button do?
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, I really want something, but like, what would I get? I don't know. And now the whole going into lithium battery stuff and the Rivian and the Teslas and all this.
Right. Would you, I could see you as a Tesla girl. A Tesla girl.
But then everybody else has a Tesla. I don't like what other people have.
Maybe go above and beyond, snag a Cybertruck. Aren't those things cute? I kind of like them.
You do?
I do.
I think they're really ugly.
They are, but I, for some reason, like them.
That's interesting because my dad said the same thing. He's like, I think they're kind of cool. I'm like, I don't like them. I bet you if I got in them, I'll probably have a different feel about it. Yeah, absolutely.
I did a podcast a while ago with a guy who owns a body shop, and they had tricked out this Cybertruck.
Whoa.
And he was like, you want to get in it? And I was like, hell yeah, I want to get in it.
Right.
So I get in the driver's seat, and it's just, if you've ever seen the inside of a Tesla, it's very similar. It's just clean. There's nothing. There's no buttons. It's just this big ass screen. And I'm sitting in there. I'm like, this is so freaking cool. But I was like, I went on the website that night and built my Cybertruck.
Yeah,
I was like, that's like a $1,200 a month payment, and I don't want to do that, nor can I.
Nor should anyone really, Logan. I mean, that's
a lot of money.
Anyway,
that's a mortgage for some people.
Absolutely. But again, if you can afford that, then gratitude.
Yeah.
Good for you. Because you've worked that hard to get that.
Yeah. Hey,
cool.
if I get to the point where I can afford a $1,200 car payment.
Good for you. And that's what I say. When people get what they want, the thing that you want and you get it, I'm like, that's awesome. That meant so much to you. You did what you had to do to get it. Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's wonderful. Not my dream.
Kimberly, now I give you the chance to turn to the microphone as if you haven't already been talking to the microphone.
Sure.
But talk directly to the people and tell them where to find your business. Tell them about your business as if we didn't just spend the last 2 hours
Oh, wow. Has it been 2 hours?
talking
Time
about
flies.
your life. Time
Wow.
flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
But yeah, tell the people about where to find you.
So East Cobb Counseling, we're right off of Roswell Road in Providence Park Business Buildings. We actually have 2 locations at that location. So we have a unit number 29, which is the original, which is where I am. And then we have unit number 24, which is all my cool newbies are. And they're super cool. So it's about 8 of us at the practice. And again, it's all mental and behavioral health services. It's a holistic approach to mental health. And we treat everyone from kids, teens, tweens, adolescents, couples, the elderly. And it's really about just providing support to people in the community, especially the family system, right? We really work in systems. We work a lot with trauma. We work a lot with people who have an array of presentations from anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, ADHD, ADD, all of those wonderful things. So you can find us at eastcobbcounseling.com. And again, we'll be willing to help in any way that we can. We are a fee for service. So we do not take insurance. What we will do is provide you a super bill that you can submit to your insurance company for reimbursement, but we just don't get involved with the insurance companies.
Sure.
Confidentiality is a huge component of what we do. So
Sure.
I just truly believe in reducing as many interruptions with that as possible for the client, especially young people, right? Like, especially kids who want to go off to college, who may not want like a diagnosis because they have a presentation right now that they're depressed because of a situation or an environmental factor.
They don't want to be labeled forever on
Right,
something
they don't want to have
that could
that
be
label.
temporary.
Right, especially if they want to go into particular schools, right? West Point or something really cool like that. Or just in the Air Force or Navy or whatever they want to do. I don't want to make that a limitation for them. So we just try to take all those things into consideration. We have clinicians who have an array of prices, obviously, depending on their educational levels and what they can provide to you. So again, it really comes down to what is the need of the client and how can we best meet that need. We work a lot with other practitioners in the community, from psychologists, psychiatrists, other therapists, nutritionists, teachers, educators, medical personnel, everything. So we really try to have a collaborative type system in place so that we can give our clients what they need.
Love that.
It's cool. I love it.
Amazing.
I really enjoy doing what we do, and I just want to continue giving back to the community and just loving East Cobb.
I love that. And I love the fact that we did this. This was
super cool, right?
So cool.
I was really...
Everyone always says the same thing of like, I was so scared, but now I feel like we're best friends.
Yeah,
I'm like, we are best friends now.
We're definitely down. Yeah, like 4 flat tires. But yeah, it was a great experience. Thank you so much. Your energy is super cool. You're just a delightful human being to be around. I cannot believe it's been 2 hours. I don't even have a watch on. Don't even have my phone next to me. So I was not tracking the time at all. I hope this was okay.
No, it's amazing. I hate cutting off a good conversation. So when people say, are your episodes an hour? I'm like, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours usually.
Yeah.
I mean, but if it's better, I mean, the longest one I've done is almost 4 hours.
Wow.
And
super cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's, I never want to be like, and that's all the time we have, because like, that's not genuine. And as long as the guest is willing to go, I'll go.
I think as a therapist, it's interesting because you have to find a way to manage the clock.
Sure.
Right?
And that's got to be difficult.
Time is truly of the essence. So my trick, I actually been to a therapist once, and the entire time that you were in there talking, he kept going, you have 45 more minutes. You have 30 more minutes. You have 15 more minutes. And I'm like, you're stressing me out. So that was definitely not something that I wanted.
I don't know what I would do.
I wanted to implement into my practice, right? But I did want this kind of awareness around time.
Sure.
So I definitely address it up front with the client when they first come in. But I also set my clocks in the office like 10 minutes fast. So they're tracking, because people tend to be very aware of their time also. So if they're looking at a clock on my wall and they go, oh, we're running out of time, I can then say, it's okay. You can continue we're talking about, you have 10 more minutes, right?
Very
That
nice.
gives us a little bit of a buffer, right? So we don't feel, like you said, that you're just like, okay, well, your time's up, so here's all your documentation here. Give me your credit card.
It gives you enough time to buffer, schedule the next session.
Exactly, and everybody feels...
Put a bow on what you're talking about, so that it's not just like, all right, hard stop, bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Like the bell in school. It's like, oh, you're dismissed, bye-bye.
Yeah. So absolutely. So we just want to be, again, you talk about how we just run on with time, but in therapy, you have to be aware of it. And then really structuring your time with a client, like, this is what we're going to do next. So you're going to come in, we're probably going to do a bit of a check-in, and then we're going to get into this thing that's going to help with this thing that we're working on, right? So again, being able to give them some sort of idea of where we're going in our process is really important.
Well, either way, thank you for the kind words. That was very nice of you. But I enjoyed this so much. It was really cool getting to know you, where you came from and where you're going from here. I can't wait to see you continue to kill it in your field and in your...
And now I have to listen to your podcast.
Oh, no.
That's how I felt. Oh, no, it's going to be great. I want to see the work that you're doing. I want to support you.
I appreciate it. That's nice of you.
It's all about the relationships. Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Awesome.
So guys, I will throw the link to the website in the description of the podcast episode, so that if you are interested in that, or in them, or in Kimberly, and you want to learn more, or you want to look into getting that first session booked, go ahead and do that. I'll have the link in the description. You can click it, take you straight to the website, so that you don't have to go and search for it yourself. I'll give it to you in the description. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really, truly appreciate your Sunday afternoon with me.
I really appreciate what you're doing, right? You're giving information out to people so that they can have an opportunity to make choices for themselves and be educated around things. And this is a different way of doing it. And I love this approach. It's very personable. So I appreciate this. Thank you. Absolutely. Cheers.
Thank you. So lastly, guys, of course, as I said at the top, share it with one friend or family member that needs to hear it. Follow on the social medias to stay connected. Thank you to East Cobb City Lifestyle for connecting us and getting this episode sponsored and taken care of. And we'll see everybody next time.
Awesome.
Take care.
Take care.